Good day, everybody. Welcome to the Entheogenic Esquire YouTube channel and podcast. My name is George Greg Lake. I'm a trial and appellate attorney specializing in civil rights cases. I'm also pretty well versed in nonprofit formation and administration, I guess we could say. I'm here today to do my episode. We're going to entitle this Covering the Cover-Up, and I made some posts about this. And by the way, we're up to 200 subscribers here. The first full week I've been posting videos. I am just beside myself with gratitude. Thank y'all so very much. I'm going to keep it coming. Thank you. So anyways, covering the cover-up. What are we talking about today? So as many are aware, obviously with the Charlie Kirk incident, September 2025, very unfortunately was unalived at Utah Valley University. I think we've all unfortunately had to take a look at that scene many times, more times than we'd ever hope we'd ever had to. Very unfortunate. But what happened, and we all know, right? It was, I was sitting here pretty much completely besides myself. I'm pretty sure Barron as an attorney was too, but we're sitting here 2 or 3 days later, right? And what do we see? Literally and again, we're still investigating. Well, actually, I think the contractor who did it has been identified, and I think we've identified that the state facilities organization was over it. But again, what happened? They paved over the crime scene, literally, where Charlie Kirk was sitting at the time he was very unfortunately, unalived. That place, that very special place for crime scene investigators, for attorneys, for the court, was paved over. And all these years of law and order and being true crime aficionados as we are, we knew immediately something here does not set right with this. And as Barron said on his stream not too long ago, he said literally they are covering up whatever was going on, right? And we're still trying to get to the bottom of that. But anyways, today in covering the cover-up, I'm going to discuss what, if any, retribution can Tyler Robinson, really on behalf of us too, right? The citizens, we kind of, in a sense, have skin in this game, but what can be done for what the state did here? That's what we're going to discuss today. I don't have any videos to share with you. We're going to look at a few photos, but that's about all I got on screen share. But we're just going to do a quick rundown of what happened. What are the kind of theories going into Tyler Robinson's legal defense? How did the paving over of the crime scene negatively affect Tyler Robinson's ability to defend himself? And what, if anything, can be done to help rectify that situation? So stay tuned. We're going to hop right in. Let's get to it. So, ladies and gentlemen, I told you I didn't have any videos to share today, but I just wanted to look at a couple photos with you real quick. The first one being a very clear image, by the way. I don't know what camera this was taken with, but this is a very good camera. But anyways, what we're looking at here is, where this is the scene where Charlie Kirk unfortunately met his very untimely demise. And so again, we have the tent here. But what's important for this photo, for our purposes here, ladies and gentlemen, is that we see the police, and I would assume these are campus or local police or whatever, but they have, at least at this time, secured the crime scene, right? So yes, the state does possess the property here. Obviously, it's under their custody and control, but also, this picture is showing you that pretty much immediately after the event, they went to secure the crime scene. And just to be clear, like creators like Blake Bednar's and many others have put out ample video showing this whole thing, right? Basically showing that the local campus police, cordoned off the area immediately after the event. And, unfortunately, we're sitting there allowing people like Terrell Farnsworth and others to grab things and mess around with the crime scene. But anyways, they otherwise secured it. And obviously they have at all times custody and control over this crime scene. So now let's look at this other one. And so this other one, which is, unfortunately is a kind of grainy image, shows us where they were actually, and I think this happened on a Sunday, just a couple days after Charlie. But correct me on that in the comments if I'm wrong, but it was like a few days, 2 or 3 days after, on a Sunday. Here they are paving over that exact same scene. So let's switch back now and let's kind of dive into this. So again, The state is alleging here that Charlie Kirk's demise was caused by a gunshot wound to the neck, a 30-06, right? And so where Charlie was sitting, this area that we looked at, that the police had cordoned off, that we see them paving over, obviously, our Law and Order crime scene, TV show cells are coming in and saying, no, there's all kinds of potential forensic evidence and other things that could have been done at this crime scene had you not paved over it. Just for instance, bullet fragments. It's claimed that a bullet is what caused Charlie Kirk's untimely demise. Well, perhaps there could have been fragments in the grass. And again, this is just one example. John Bray has the exploding microphone theory. Well, had it not been paved over, we could have tested the grass and other areas around where Charlie Kirk unalived for potential explosives residue, right? So the fact that they paved over the crime scene, as we can see, there's at least two different ways in which this conduct has severely prejudiced Tyler Robinson's defense, or potentially severely prejudiced Tyler Robinson's defense. Just making sure. Oh, and so one more I want to talk about is crime scene reconstruction, right? Had the crime scene been left as is, experts could have come in and taken measurements, things of this nature. And in reality, that could have potentially been used by both sides, right? The state and the defense. But in any way, now that it's paved over, a very exact crime scene reconstruction, a live one will not be possible. So under Utah law, this is essentially a due process problem, okay? And I want to make everyone acutely aware that in this instance, the state, right, as UVU, I believe it's a state university, had complete custody and control over the crime scene area, because that is one of the factors that we're going to need to look at. And what we're getting at here is, what can Tyler Robinson's defense do in order to help level the playing field, so to speak? And so again, in Utah, this is it's really a due process issue everywhere, but under state law, the research I've seen, this would be really approached as a due process issue. And what we'd be looking at is, again, Tyler Robinson's defense would be filing a motion in court. And we know that they have currently, I do believe, filed, and I heard this on Barron's podcast, I'll do some more digging, but I do believe that they have filed a motion to preserve evidence for biologics. We're really not sure what that is. We think it could perhaps refer to Charlie's body. We don't know that for sure, but we do know that at least one motion has been filed to preserve evidence. Obviously, there's no more preserving this here, so what they would want to do, because it's been destroyed, again, is file a motion. And usually this is in the form of a motion for an adverse inference, is what we would call it. And so what I found is, under Utah law, and I want to go through the factors real quick that the court, or the steps in which the court would really look and approach this problem. So one, it would be a threshold showing by the defense. They would need to show that there's a reasonable probability that the destroyed evidence would have been relevant and potentially exculpatory. I'm not going to go back into that analysis, but I think that there would be a very, very good argument here why that would be true. So then the next is the court would evaluate the state's fault and prejudice. So first, state culpability. Was the destruction negligent, reckless, or unjustified? And then second, prejudice. How badly does the loss impair the defense's ability to present the case? So those would be the two, or the set of inquiries that the judge would be going over at this time, looking at this motion. Again, for an adverse inference is the way I would personally structure it. But as we'll see, there's a few remedies actually that the court could order, and one being limiting the state's evidence. So in some way limiting their ability to put on certain evidence, perhaps related to their allegation that the bullet caused the unaliving of Charlie Kirk. Excluding certain conclusions, so they could certainly limit what the jury is able to conclude in a way that would kind of, and we're not going to go into all the possibilities there, but understand the judge could help rectify it by limiting certain conclusions that the jury could come into. And then also, as I stated just a second ago, an adverse jury instruction, which would basically be telling the jury, hey, look, the state's alleging that there's this 30-06 bullet that caused all this. Well, and the defense says that that's not true. Well, when you're assessing that fact, understand, we want you to assume more or less that because the state paved over this crime scene, that you can assume, this is the adverse inference, you can infer that evidence would have been contrary to their case, basically. That wouldn't have been good for them, right? And so how that calculates into the jury deliberation is something we'll never truly know, and obviously will factor very much in each situation, but that gets thrown into the mix, and then the jury deliberates, with that consideration in mind. So those are kind of the avenues for retribution here. For Tyler Robinson, in a sense, on behalf of us citizens, for what I consider, my opinion, is just a blatant destruction of evidence. Simple as that. I mean, I don't know in what universe paving over that crime scene was something consistent with due process and justice. Just saying. So anyway, I think that kind of takes us to the end here. It'll be very interesting to see what happens. I want to end by saying, this is my opinion. If I were to be representing Tyler Robinson, knowing what I know now, again, his attorneys very well might know something different. Based upon what I know now, I would definitely be looking to file this motion along with a challenge, as I've stated, and we'll be going into more depth in other videos, and also be challenging the probable cause. But this would also absolutely be a motion that I would be pursuing on behalf of Tyler Robinson. So what do you think? Did you get something out of that? The comments have been great. My heart is so full. Thank you all very much for all the very kind comments and the support that you've been giving. Let me know what you think about this. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and I will be expanding upon this as we move forward. Anyways, much love, y'all. Y'all have a great day.